advisory element to all of this. So this is basically a combination of all these interventions to make, just to make sure that, as part of the program, you guys are supported in the most optimal way possible. So thank you very much for UNISA to actually go out on a limb and actually put this program in place, because it's one of those key initiatives that we actually need to uplift SMME and business in general in the country. So before we kick off, I just want to start off with a couple of housekeeping. If you need to connect to the Wi-Fi, those are the credentials over there by the wall. The bathrooms are outside to the left, or to the right. And then, in terms of how we proceed today, we've got a guest for you who's basically going to share his life journey. And during the conversation, let's keep it relaxed, let's keep it informal, because the most important thing is to basically, for you to have the conversations, to have some key takeaways. We'll have some questions and answers, just after he speaks at about 12 o'clock. And then, after that, we'll break for lunch, and then we'll have just a general session where we can actually just mingle and get to know each other and just discuss and exchange ideas and just to network a little bit. Is everybody okay with that? Any questions with regards to expectations that you perhaps had for the day that you may want to clarification on? Going once, going twice, good. Okay. Without wasting too much of your time, this podium was not really about me today. We're bringing you a speaker, Sunny Morgan. He's basically a businessman, just like all of us. He will be sharing his life journey in terms of, where he started off, the lessons that he's picked up along the way, and so that because it's important that as part of the academic program that you guys are doing, it's good to pick up those salient points in terms of what to do, but the practical element in terms of what really works, what doesn't work, that's really where the value is. So to foster that a culture of communication, knowledge sharing among ourselves. This is one of those key kickoff sessions where we can actually start doing that. So without wasting too much time, Sunny, please, you can regale us with all your adventures. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Before I start, I'd like to take a photograph for social media. If I have your permission, I'll take the photograph and post it. And if we don't have your permission, you can just bow down, and then I won't include you in the picture. Is it okay? Okay, good. So first lesson, we always marketing. How's that? Good. I don't have a life journey. I don't have a long story. I can just tell you who I am, what I've learned, and what I think is important so that it helps you in your journey to be successful. A little bit about myself. My name is Sunny Morgan. I also have a nickname. It's not really a nickname. It's my real name is Sunnyboy, so everybody just calls me Sunny. I've been Sunny my whole life. But for the last 10 years, I've been Sunny, the solar guy. In 2011, after being an executive, we were busy building a business together with other people. We were just staff members, but we were key people in the business. They were building that business to list it on the stock exchange. So it means we were in executive positions. In 2011, I wasn't earning much. I don't know what a lot of money is today, but I was earning 1.5 million rand a year, and 2 500,000 rand bonuses twice a year. So it was decent money. I wish I still had that job. I've never seen so much money again, by the way. So I come from an executive background. I have a finance background through trial and error. So educationally, I I'm poorly educated. During the school boycotts of 1980, my parents took me out. I got involved politically. My grandfather was already on Robben Island. My parents took me out because they feared that I'll go the same route. So I was in standard 9. We didn't call it grade 11 those days. It was standard 9. My parents took me out of school. My father took me out of school on the 4th of August, 1980. On the 5th of August, 1980, I was an adult working full-time job in a toy importing business. So I come from that background of knowing how to work. So educationally, I wasn't good. But over the years, because you need extra skills, I have a certificate in negotiation from Harvard University, and I have, I'm an alumni of UNISA in strategic thinking and strategic management, both the advanced course and the certificate course, which I completed while I was trying to build a business. So that's just my background. I run my business on a daily basis, but I do one other important thing. That important thing that I do is I'm a climate justice activist. So I'm well known in spaces for being an activist talking about climate justice. Climate justice and all of those things, you'll see it will come through in my presentation, because I want you to also remember, I'm not doing it for the money, but you may want to do it for the money. The largest economic opportunity on the planet, the largest economic opportunity on the planet at the moment, and likely to be so for the next 20 to 30 years, is the transition away from fossil fuels to renewable energy. Right? So whether you agree with the coal lobby, whether you agree with the renewable energy lobby, that's not important. The important thing is it's the largest economic opportunity on the planet. It's worth trillions and trillions of dollars. So let's start the presentation. I suppose that's there. So I'm going to tell you about my journey to become not Sunny, not Sunnyboy Morgan, not my adopted name, not my given name, Sunny Vandia, but to become Sunny the Solar Guy. A couple of lessons. By the way, this Sunny the Solar Guy is a trademark. So if you think you have something valuable, think about the easy things and trademark it. By the way, trademarking is very, very easy if you do it yourself. It's 460 Rand. So you don't have to go to a lawyer. You don't have to do lots of things. If you think you have a trademark for your meat business, for your packaging business, for your makeup business, trademark whatever you think is trademarkable, and it's 460 bucks. One second. So like I was saying to you, in 2011, I was an executive. They decided to list this business on the stock exchange. I'm not going to be mentioning the business's name for now. Maybe you'll pick it up later. But in that business, they had a property division. And this property division was not conducive to the image that this business wanted to be projecting at the time. The business was primarily selling repossessed houses. Now in those days, repossessed houses was not in Sandton, was not in Randburg, the ones we were selling. They were in Shoshenguve, Mabopani, Garankuwa, Umtata. They were in African areas. And when you're going to see the international bankers to try to get the support to list this business, then it didn't make nice for the glossy marketing materials to talk about toying and to talk about burning and all of those things. So they got rid of that division because it didn't fit the objectives of listing. And I was a casualty of that process of getting rid of that division. There was no longer a need for somebody that promoted home ownership amongst black people, that didn't believe in evictions, that didn't want to throw people out of their houses, and that wanted to see innovative ways to promote those houses and to promote home ownership. One of the things we did was we paid illegal occupants to move out of the house. So we said, listen, you have occupied this house, it doesn't belong to you, we're going to go through a legal process, why don't we just pay you to go? And we used to pay them 70,000 rand, 50,000 rand. So it's people who just suddenly got a break. You know, some of them used the money responsibly and started small businesses. But obviously in a listing, there's not that kind of situation. I'll never forget what someone said to me, and it's a lesson for all of you. This CEO is famous in the country, probably one of the best CEOs in the country, said to me sitting in a meeting, so tell me, Sunny, what's the solution? So at that time we had 5,500 houses. And I said to him, well, you know, there isn't a single solution. I've got 5,500 solutions because every house is unique. You know what he said to me? This is 2 or 3 years before I got retrenched. He said, we can't list a business with 5,000 solutions. We want one solution that's scalable. So it made sense. That should have given me an indication that my days were numbered. So this is what we need to do. So then I got retrenched. So I figured out, now what do I do with this fact that, first of all, well-paying, which if it was well-paying, the retrenchment package was reasonably well-paying as well. I managed to negotiate another few months of being a consultant so that they paid so that we could help with the transition, but quickly the money ran out. So I did a strategic analysis because I had already done the nice course through UNISA on strategic analysis. I said, what choices do I have at that time? Obviously, I liked earning 1.5 million rand a year. It was very, very helpful. It gave you a sense of pride, but there's also no stress. There was no stress. So I wanted another job. I thought if I can get another job, that's one of the choices, that paid as well, that would be a good idea. I looked at what resources I had. By then I had some money to do something. And what did I want? This was the key factor for me. What did I want? Did I want money? Did I want legacy? Or did I just want another job? Now, legacy wasn't important for me at the time. Money wasn't also so important for me. What I wanted was freedom. Because it wasn't the first time I was retrenched. I was retrenched 5 or 6 years before that as well. I wanted to be in control of my destiny, in control of my income, in control of my mind. So for me, it was about freedom, right? So the slide before this, I'm going to go up 1 second. I was going to say to you, by the way, to make money isn't the wrong answer, right? Because if you say that you want to have your business and you want to make money, that's perfectly fine. Right? For me, it wasn't a driving force and a key factor at the time. I wanted freedom. So I analyzed all of those things. What choices do I have? And the choice was that, well, I chose to be a business person. So why did I choose to open a business and not find another job? Because I could find another job. We were well known. There were other people that were doing what we were doing, and some of the people who thought, well, if this company can do this and list, maybe there's an opportunity for us. But I decided I want to change the world. Now, it sounds really arrogant that you can even think along those lines that you want to change the world. Right? But I do want to change the world. That's why I'm an activist. I have been an activist for 45 years. I do want to change the world. So I'm going to tell you why I think I can change the world, right? And it drives me, the fact that I'm making some contribution somewhere. So one of our mottos in our business, we're healing the planet one solar panel at a time. So I own a renewable energy company, if that wasn't apparent to you, right? So we do installations of solar panels to people, whether it's to somebody in a Mkuku somewhere, one panel, one small thing just for a light, or whether it's for an entire business that wants to go off-grid, that's going to pay us 15 million rand for that process. So I have customers from somebody who, my invoice was 900 rand, and I have somebody whose invoice was 9 million rand in between that process. So we want to change the world by moving to renewable energy. And if you're going to talk about renewable energy, you know there's lots of types of renewable energy, but what am I focused on? My name is Sunny, the solar guy, so I want to focus on solar, right? So I want to change the world. I definitely want to do something meaningful, properly meaningful, something, and I used to say I'm not worried about legacy. Legacy is what people will say about you, what they'll think about you, and what they'll write about you. So I thought that wasn't important because it would mean I have some pride. But as I developed this business, I realized that's important. You want to be remembered for something, right? You want to be remembered for something. I want to be remembered for changing the world. And I want to challenge myself. I want to constantly learn. Even today, I'm 59 years old, and I'm always doing another course. I was just having a conversation with this gentleman here about the latest technology in AI, and how do we use it in our businesses on a daily basis. So I'm going to stay after my talk. We can show you a demonstration, because you might say to yourself, well, I need to do a business plan, and I went to the accountant, and it's taking so long, and I can do it for you in about 3.5 minutes, and you can have a copy of it here, and you can go with it. So that's how fast artificial intelligence is doing stuff, right? So I want to challenge myself constantly. So who in the room has done an MBA? Very expensive. Who's got any kind of business course that they've done? Put up your hands. Right, you've done a business course, entry level, advanced, college. How long did it take you? 2 years. Yeah, so that's like it's an MBA. You know, it's not a SBL, it's an MBA. Maybe it's a BA Business Management. But for everyone except him, I'm going to give you the fastest MBA you've ever had, right? And I guarantee you, I'll challenge anyone who's done their MBA to contradict us, okay? Are you ready to learn the quickest MBA ever? Sure. Here's it. You only need to answer 3 questions. Forget about everything else. You need to answer these 3 questions. If you answer these 3 questions, it will tell you whether you have a business, how big that business is, right? And how much money you can make in that business. So I'm going to tell you the questions, and I'm going to use those questions to answer it in my business, so you can understand how it works, right? You must always, okay, I would like to hear what type of businesses are in the room. So I'm a solar business. Ma'am? IT and construction. Huh. Okay.
Marketing and branding. Construction. Branding.
Healthcare, nice. Web, yeah. Healthcare. Oh, nice, agree. Construction and? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, nice. Oh, that's good. Yeah.
IT,
Perfumes. Yes, sir? Yeah? So ChatGPT is not going to deal with construction. We'll come back to that. You, sorry, sir? Baba? What type of business are you in? Okay.
Perfume business and construction.
Construction and logistics.
Okay, nice. So quite a lot of construction and a lot of IT, right? So if I put all the construction people together and ask you what you do, you can't all say construction, right? Because there's no differentiator there, right? So what problem are you solving? Right? This is a fundamentally important question. So in my business, what problem am I solving? So let me tell you a little bit about my business. I started in 2012, so you can say 14 years that we're going, 13 years that we're going with this business, of which 10 years is only solar. So the first 3 years was, I have this idea, we're going to do this business, we're going to sell heat pumps, which is an alternative way to make hot water so you don't use your geyser for half the price. It's a fantastic renewable energy resource, protecting the environment. And I decided I was going to sell heat pumps because Eskom had a rebate. So if you put a heat pump in for 13,000 Rand, you got 8,000 Rand back from Eskom. So I obviously thought I am going to do 1 container of them, 500 a month. Right? And I'm going to make serious money and I'm going to be rich. Right? it took me 3 years to sell 15. Right? So in one of the slides, you'll see why I stayed with it. So important is what problem are you solving? So I did the heat pumps first, then I did some solar, and only to make electricity. There was no load shedding, right? So there was no batteries. So you put solar panels, you make your own electricity. But if there is a power outage, you can't use that system, right? But there wasn't a lot of load shedding. So we did that anyway. So a lot of commercial companies. So all the solar farms you hear about that Eskom has and all the IPPs have, those are grid tied. Same thing I'm talking about, no batteries. So now I do batteries and solar. So what problem am I solving? Initially, when there was no load shedding, I was solving the problem of high electricity costs, right? You were paying Eskom 150. If you bought solar panels from me, I could reduce your cost. So the solar panels that you use to make your own electricity, we say it's free electricity, right? Because the sun shines on the panel, but you paid for the equipment. So if you amortize the cost of the equipment, our electricity was costing 62 cents. Versus Eskom's 120 or 150. So it was a no-brainer, people were buying it, okay? So what problem did I initially solve? I solved the problem of the high cost of electricity. Today it's much easier. The problem I'm solving is electricity. You buy a product from me, you don't have to worry about electricity. People who buy a decent solar panel with a decent solar panels with a decent inverter and the right amount of batteries, professionally tailored to how big your battery is, never worry about load shedding. You know what my customers say? We don't know there's load shedding. So we had to put in a special light in our house that goes off when there's load shedding, otherwise we won't know. So we really don't know, and every single customer will tell me, Sunny, wow, you've saved my life. I don't know what load shedding is, and it's a really privileged position to be in, right? Because an average customer, you all need to know what your average customer will spend with you. So you need to know if that's a good number or not. So my average customer spends 200,000 Rand with me. 200,000. So obviously I sell stuff for 50,000, 20,000, 11,000, but average, 200,000. So when they spend 200,000, load shedding is history. Some stuff don't work, but you're not going to put a 2-kilogram chicken in the microwave to defrost it and then decide to bake it, right? Or to do the washing. But you want to watch TV. You want your phone to work. You want your lights to work. You want your gate motor to work. You want your sound system to work. You want your electric fence to work, right? All of that works. So I call those lifestyle options. Your lifestyle is just going to be dinkum. What problem am I solving? The insecurity of load shedding, the aggravation of load shedding. Now, how many people have that problem? In my case, millions, right? Millions have that problem, right? Millions, okay? And are they prepared to pay me to solve that problem? Of course, I've got 1,000 customers that already paid me, right? What problem am I solving? Load shedding, aggravation, being in the dark. How many people have that problem? At least 1 million households. Right? Are they prepared to pay me? In your case, if it's a new business, you have to make an assumption from your research whether they are prepared to pay you. Right? For me, I test. I went to go and ask them, and I have customers. So for me, the answer is easy. Of course, I have a track record of paying customers. Right? And I've been in this business for 10 years. So for me, I was talking to my team one of the days, and they said, oh, you know, our competitors are so busy. You know, why aren't we more busy? I said, it doesn't bother me that we're not busy. We do about 4 to 5 installations a month, normal ones, which is R1 million turnover, right? And then we do 1 or 2 really big ones in the year. But he said, but we still, you know, we should be growing faster. I said, we don't have to grow faster. What we have to realize is that the runway for this business is still 20 years. Right? We are not in a business that's about to close. You might be in some businesses that are about to close. You understand, depending on what you're doing. So as innovation happens, as technology improves, some of the businesses, and luckily not a lot from what I heard here, but a lot of the businesses will not survive 5 years. Because within 1 year, your biggest client that pays you for branding, right, will say, I did my branding on Canva. So you know Canva is a free program to make posters, right? Yeah, they just make posters. They make posters and business cards, right? So that's not branding, right? But this week, they announced that the back end of Canva now has artificial intelligence. So now you can say, build me a branding campaign. And within 5 minutes, it will give you all the bullet points for a branding business. Marketing, you can say, I would like to develop a marketing campaign for the construction industry that are in the ESD program of UNISA. It will give you a marketing program. So you need to be thinking about those things. About, are you in a business that's got a long runway in front or one that is going to be in decline? There's big ones that are in decline and people just don't want to accept it. Fossil fuel industry, petrol, coal mining, are all going to be in decline in a rapid, it will happen so fast you will get caught unawares. So all those mining companies that mine coal, they're making a load of money. I had a friend, I attended a funeral in December, and I saw someone there, and I heard him whisper to his friend, we have a coal mining company, we export coal. Our budget was R1 billion in 12 months. It's not yet the 3rd month and we've exceeded the R1 billion already. So they're obviously doing very, very well, but it's not consistent and it's certainly not sustainable. So think about your businesses and see where you're going. So this is the mini MBA, right? What problem are you solving? If you can't articulate the problem that you're solving, right, you have a problem, right? You have a big issue. Not only must you be able to articulate what problem are you solving, you also need to have your pitch. So you know what the elevator pitch is, right? Everybody familiar with the elevator pitch? So basically it says, if you were on the ground floor of a building and you're going to enter the lift and go to the 1st floor, right? That takes 25, 30 seconds, okay? And your biggest funder gets into the lift with you and says to you, what can I do for you? Tell me about your business. In that 30 seconds, can you tell them everything your business does or stands for? Okay? My elevator pitch, 24 words, sometimes 25. We help individuals and businesses save money by going off the grid and fitting solar panels. Also, to reduce their reliance on the grid. So if somebody asks, what do I do? We help businesses and consumers save money by fitting solar panels so they can reduce the reliance on the grid. No one is confused about what that is. I can tell a 7-year-old what I do and they'll understand it. You must be able to communicate that as well. What I learned from 6 tries. 6 tries is not a rugby reference. This is my 6th attempt at business. Okay? I've tried businesses a lot of times. A startup is born every minute. While I'm talking, you're thinking, hey, that's a good idea. I'm going to open up this AI business. I think I'm going to register it, right? And ideas also happen all the time. A domain isn't a business. Neither is a business plan or a business model canvas. If you have all of those things, don't think you have a business, right? A business is a lot more than that. I am very fond of the minute I have an idea, I check if the domain is registered, and I register the domain, and I think I'm going to start something. I own 41 different domains, right? So it's a disease, right? Because every year you have to renew it, and you have to pay. But I also own Sunny the Solar Guy and all of the other ones, and some good ones, right? But just because you have an idea doesn't mean you have a business. You need to, or because you wrote the business plan, or because you went somewhere and did an MBA. My first business plan was done with the Small Business Development Corporation, which is now called Business Partners. I did it when I was 22 years old. I came first in class because after I did the plan, my conclusion was that that business won't work. Because you don't always have to prove the business works. In my conclusion, I realized I'm going to be working my ass off for long periods of time. It's easy to copy. There's no barriers to entry. Anybody with a sewing machine can do it. I was making curtains and interior decorating. I thought I was an interior decorator. And everybody can do it. Everybody with a machine can make curtains. I realized actually I should stay in the bank, which I did. So you have to be thick-skinned. One of the things I've learned. Why did I say I'm thick-skinned? For the first 2 years, I got retrenched on the 11th of September 2011 until 2014, when I got my first solar customer in June of 2014, and I called myself a solar business all that time, right? What kept me going? What kept me going? Well, I had a little bit of money so that I could just pay my basic needs, but very, very basic. But what kept me going is the belief that I had something to offer, that I was doing something meaningful, that I was going to change the world in some way, right? And that makes you thick-skinned, because the failures, I saw a friend of mine put out a tweet on Sunday. He said, yo, I'm broke, but not so broke that I have to sell my plasma TV. So I said to him, then you haven't been broke enough, right? I have one passion that is an expensive passion. It's not cocaine. I like high-end hi-fi equipment, like high-end, right? I like to listen to female vocals and jazz music with the highest quality that I can. So which means you have to spend 50 to 60,000 rand for a speaker. If you Google a Harbert speaker, H-A-R-B-E-R-T, it's a Harbert speaker. It's only this high, not from the floor, from the table. It's about that high, so it's called a bookshelf. It's 8,000 pounds. Just 200,000 rand for the speaker. Right? I didn't buy it, I'm looking for one. But every single time I hit the wall with money, I sold something. So I had a set of speakers called Sonus Faber Concertos. It cost me 25,000 rand. I sold them for 5,000 rand. Right? So you have to be thick-skinned. You will sell what you have accumulated. Right? You will get to the end of your wits. I was on first name basis with the sheriff of the court, because they would come to the house and I got home one day from work. I was already working, but I was paying off previous debts. So I get to the door and I open the door and there's nothing in the lounge. Nothing. And I think to myself, oh, my domestic worker's name was Eva. It's just before Christmas, this is November. She must have it outside because she took it to clean it. Vacuum. The sheriff had taken everything, only left me with the bed, right? He couldn't take the fridge because it had all the frozen stuff in it, and he left me with a few plates and a few cups. Yeah. But they came the following week again to take whatever they didn't take the first week. So when I say he came so often that we became friends, and I said, listen, man, Anton, call me before you come, man, so I know I'm here. So this is serious, right? If you're serious about your business, be prepared that you might lose everything and plan for it. So you must be thick-skinned and tenacious and persevere. It's harder than you think and will take longer than you planned for. I saw other people say, hey, I'm gonna start this business. I'm gonna give it my all for 5 years and I'm gonna retire. So I've been saying I'm gonna retire since I was 30. When I was 25, I said I'm retiring when I'm 30. Now I'm gonna retire at the Cesar age, 65. Because it's hard. And it takes long. And it's difficult, this thing of running. And I'm not talking about, and no disrespect to the guy that's selling chicken feet on the side of the road, right? Because he goes to Pick and Pay in the morning, he buys 5 kilos of chicken feet, he comes there, rinses it, roasts it, and selling. I'm talking about the person that wants to make a business, right? And what's the difference between being self-employed and owning a business? A self-employed, you have a job. You're just working for yourself, right? You're only worried about your salary. I just want to make enough money to pay the bills at the end of the month. That's all. That's self-employed, right? So that's the guy, Chisinyama, small-time electrician, so just wants to get a job. A business is an entity that exists outside of you. It has systems and processes and products, right? You've put plans in place. It can exist outside of you. You can go away for 6 months, for 3 months, for 2 months, for 1 month. The product will still turn. the systems will kick in. People will go to the shop, they'll buy, money will get into the bank. So differentiate between whether you're self-employed or you have a business. Because if you have a business, you have a responsibility to that business. You may have heard me coughing a little bit. I'm recovering from long COVID. I avoided COVID in South Africa all the time. I went for some of my activist work on a speaking tour of Europe on the 25th of February, and I contracted COVID in London, maybe even on the plane. So I got sick. But I've been out of circulation for a month. But my business is running, and the money's coming into the bank, and I'm overseeing it. So it's important that you understand this, that you have systems and processes in place, and I'm just not self-employed. So don't forget this, right, that it's hard, right? So you must be prepared for it. Even expert trapeze, you know those people in the circus that hang on those ropes and they go from one rope to the other rope and they look like they're flying, right? They have a safety net for a reason, right? Because things can go horribly wrong, okay? So even trapeze artists have safety nets, okay? We all, ooh, ah, and we think how fantastic they are, but they can't do what they do without the safety net. Your safety net needs to be what is relevant for you. What is relevant for you may be the support of a partner. Husband, wife, partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, doesn't matter, right? So you need to have that. Or you need to have a financial plan as your safety net. So if we say that you got retrenched, you got 500,000 rand, you're going to open up a business, don't put the 500,000 rand into your business, put 350,000 rand into the business, and the other 150,000 rand into a money market account so that you can draw a salary of every month, bare minimum. I say to people, you must always know your number. Luxury, whatever, when I was earning 100, whatever thousands, my take-home salary was 82,000 rand. And guess what? I use 82,000 rand every month. So, you know, when you got lots of money, your needs develop into your disposable. But know your number, that is the bare minimum that you have to survive with. Today, I know my number every single day. I know how far I'm towards that number. So my number is 20,200 rand. So I need 20,200 rand every single month for my own personal needs at home, to pay the bond, to pay this, to pay that, to pay that. So you must know that number. If you don't know that number, you're going to get caught, because in 3 months, it's 60,000 rand. And then you're in trouble. So know your number and have a system in place to make sure that it's there so you can understand it and you can work to it, right? Go slow to go far, right? You can't do all of it one time. If you have a plan for your business, it's you thinking about what problem am I solving, how many people have that problem, are they paying me to solve it? Then you're building the systems, you're building the products, you're building the processes. Once that takes place, right, realize that the process is going to happen. You can't do it all fast because it will drain you, you'll get frustrated, you leave. When you leave, after 3 years, you will have lost R1 million. Because you have to decide, how much do I earn a month? I earn 25,000 rand a month. If you earn 25,000 rand a month, that's 300,000 rand a year. 3 years of that, you've lost R1 million. People don't think about the opportunity cost, because if I was in a job for that 3 years, I would have earned R1 million. So know that number, right? You can't do it alone. You get burnt out. You can't be the salesperson, the driver, the manager, the installer, everything. You need a team. Build a credible team. One of the challenges we have today, when our staff say, why are our competitors growing faster than us? Because they were better at building teams. You must build a team. She needs it also. Once you're done, give it to her. So you have to build a team, right? And you need to understand, not everybody can be directors. Not everybody can be managers. You do need workers, right? So you have to build a team. If you don't build a team that you can bounce ideas off, I have a rule with my staff, right? So electricians know this, people who are in construction know this. Safety is a problem, right? You have to be able to get off the ground. You know the law in South Africa says that if a person goes 1.8 meters off the ground, this is just this, I'm 175. So if a person is standing on my head, they need special training. So you have to make sure you pay attention to the special training, right? So I have a rule with my staff. If we have to get onto a roof, no matter where it is, my rule is And this is why you must trust your team. My rule is, if you don't feel safe, just tell me you don't want to go. Don't go on the roof because I said as the boss you must go on the roof. Say I don't feel safe, and then we'll address what is causing the safety issue. We'll tie the step ladder down, we'll put on a harness, and then you take responsibility. So not only must you build a team, but build a team that you can share knowledge with and that you can learn from. I'm not an electrician. So when my electrician says to me it must be done like this, I only have one rule. We want professionalism and we want to stick to the code, no shortcuts. So we pay attention to that. But you have to get a team that you build so that your team is credible, right? That's the most important thing. You must be able to also trust your team. I'm coming towards the end. So how do I plan to make an impact and how do I plan to scale this business? Now, I'm talking also normally, but also I've got some guidance about what I had to cover. So I may skip some stuff because I'm working on the template about what I was told would be important for you to hear. So how do I plan to make an impact? So can you see the language I use? Business language would be, how do you plan to scale? Right? That's the business language. How do you scale? For me, scale is important, but much more important is, what do I want to do? I want to change the world. So you change the world by impacting it. So I also use my language, right? Impact. So you must build it, you must start it, and you must launch it, right? So this idea of build it, start it, launch it, so it all means the same thing, right? So if you say you have a business, don't wait for the perfect opportunity, right? Don't wait for the perfect opportunity. Don't wait till everybody says, oh, what a fantastic business plan. Don't wait till you have the 7th iteration of your business model canvas, right? You're going to run out of ideas. Start something. Just start it. Right? That's the first thing, right? So that means start it, launch it, build it. Launch is the word for startups, in the IT businesses, whatever. Just do it, okay? Sell 1, sell 10. This is called the 1 by 10 matrix. You go to Harvard, you go to Stanford, they say, this is what you must do. You must grow 10 times all the time, right? So you sell 1, then you sell 10, then you sell 100. Any reason, so after I sent the presentation, I amended my presentation. So in my presentation, it's 101 to 1,000. Any reason, any ideas why it's in red? Just maybe somebody will pick it up. Because that's where I am. Right? So I'm in between 101 and 1,000. So that's the space where you're growing the business. Because at 1, you're just trying it out. I wonder if these things fit together. Right? At 10, I wonder if anyone's actually interested in this thing that I built. Right? Then after the first 100, you say, this is interesting. How long did it take me to get to 100? Was it interesting? Was it hard? Maybe if you iron out some of that stuff, maybe there's still some learnings. But when you get to 101 and in between 1,000, now you have a business because you need to be able to be consistent, to be able to deliver, to have the processes in place. So I am about 550 customers at the moment. Right? Now remember, just do the math, 550 times 200,000 and each. You know what the turnover is. But I also have other things that I'm doing. And one of the things I'm doing is I would like, so we talk about coming to your house to do an analysis of your energy needs and what system you have. So it's a process. I have to make an appointment. I must come and measure. I must do a proposal. A lot of things. But when you buy a fridge from Macro, right? Just imagine this, my analogy, right? You go to Macro, you buy the fridge, so that means you paid. You either bring it on your bakkie or they deliver it. But the minute they deliver it, what's the first thing you do? Put it in the position where it needs to be, right? Strip off the packaging, plug it on, and pack it. Within 20 minutes of the fridge's delivery, you're using the fridge, right? Isn't it? So I want an energy solution that is so ubiquitous, so perfect, that if you order it and my phone pings that the EFT has been made, I want to come with a trolley roll it into your house, say, where's your DB board? Take the electrician, and within 20 minutes, I want your problem solved, right? So if I build that product, I'm going to be with that product, I'm here. Because I have 4 customers in Soweto that pay me on a monthly basis for that product, 1,500 Rand, on a rent-to-own basis. So the cheapest one is 30,000 and the most expensive one is 55,000 Rand. Okay? I'm probably going to be selling them at 75,000 Rand. But imagine, and by the way, it's going to look as sexy as the fridge. Right? It's going to have that gold, that silver finish. It's going to be able to be rolled in. When people come to you and they ask you, hey, is this a bar fridge? I want it to look like that. So that's the thinking, right? Innovation, quality, decency, functionality, price point, all of those things. And what problem am I solving? All right, we're back to that. So, that's, yeah. So at 10,000 or anywhere in between 5 and 10,000, right? You cash out. You want to build this thing, have fun, all of that. But when you 5,000, right? People are going to, you are going to attract attention when you're in between over 1,000. People are going to say, hey, this is something we might invest in. When it's at 5,000, you can cash it out. I have an ambition to build a business, not my projects, my business. I think I'm on time now. My business, so that I can cash it out at 100 million Rand. I want to be able to sell my business within 3 or 4 years for at least 100 million Rand that I'm cashed out. It's not a lot of money these days. In 2010, it was a hell of a lot of money. It's probably 200 million now, right? But my idea is, so 10 million US dollars, I'll be very, very happy if I can cash out, right? But you don't have to cash out, by the way, right? I'm 59, you guys are all still very young. So you don't have to cash out, right? You can stay for the fun. Because maybe you'll sell a portion of it when it's got 5,000 customers, right? And then you can do all the things that you want. But the hard lessons are important, right? Buy the company Baki before you buy the Bugatti, right? I'll give you an example. I have a friend came to me last week on Friday. He is on a supplier program like this for Massmart. He sells quite a unique product, very easy to make, very cheap, and sells loads of it. Every time I see him, he's got a new 4x4. Every time. Once a year. So last time I saw, he had the Amarok. Then he had the Ford Wildcat. It's all 500,000 to 700,000. When he came on Friday to see me, right, he had the latest Nissan. But fat and big and silver and leather, you name it. He came to buy an inverter from me that I normally sell for 8,500 Rand. This is my friend. I'm always in it. I said 6,500. He came there. He says, bro, 5.5, please, man. It's a bit tough. So driving a 1 million Rand car, which is depreciating every single time, can't pay 6,000 Rand for an inverter to keep his server up and running so he can run his business. So buy the Baki before you buy the Bugatti. I own a Baki. I paid 99,000 Rand for it. It's the Baki I came to this premises with. I don't have a car. My wife has a Yaris. My daughter has a 20-year-old Toyota Tez. I will buy me an electric car for 1.5 million Rand when there's 1.5 million Rand sitting in the bank account that has a tax problem. At the moment, I can't afford it. So think about buying the Baki first before you buy that fancy car. I see lots of business people, and particularly this age group, lots of them, dressed with Gucci and Versace and what's, right? And then they're parking at home, staying in the back room by the mother, yeah, in Vosloorus or somewhere, right? It's not right. Take it seriously.
Well, a car they can't use for the company.
The car, yeah. I've seen people pull up at my garage in my community, fancy cars, and pay 200 Rand for the petrol because they can't afford, right? And then the first thing they stop is the insurance. Huh? And there's an accident down the road and they can't, it wipes them out financially. So guys, you're talking about a business, think about it carefully. And then understand what is good debt and bad debt, right? Okay? Your good debt is your supplier accounts. I have a customer where I have 250,000 Rand account that today is standing on zero. But if I have urgent customer, I can buy and I can fill the order and wait for my customer to pay because I service my supplier accounts. The supplier accounts are the suppliers are your partners. You know, we call about silent partners, right? The relationships you build with people are your silent partners because they make your business possible. So pay your suppliers first. I'm going to tell you a story after this. It's about on the next slide. And then I have developed something that's unique about you and how you present your business and how you sell your business and how you promote your business. So my one is called the WOW experience. I developed this myself, but you know there's HP has something called the HP way. IBM called it somewhere else. So we small business, like small little things, but we're thinking like the big businesses. So we have a system called the WOW experience. I want my customer to say wow 3 times. If my customer says wow 3 times, I've done my job. I like him or her to say wow when they meet me the first time. Wow, Sunny, you're really, really passionate about this thing, and you really, really know what you're talking about. First wow. When we install it, the way we handle the installation, how we clean up after, electricians will know you use the stripper to strip a piece of wire, and that small little piece comes out at the end. My staff are trained to pick that small little piece up and put it away. So we must leave the customer's place better than we found it or in the same position that we found it. So most times people say install in the garage, right? And you know you don't look after your garage. It's dirty, it's messy. By the time we finish, and I'll show you photographs if anyone's interested, by the time we are done, the garage looks better than it looked before we came. So when they come to look at it, they say, wow, this is like really exciting. Second wow. The third wow is when they get their bill at the end of the month and said, wow, Sunny said we're going to save 50%. We saved 50%. Now in this cases here, there's not so much a saving because the batteries are expensive. The wow comes when, wow, I didn't even know there was load shedding. Right? 3 wows. I'm doing my job well enough. Right? Develop it for whatever it is in your business. Okay, last 2 slides, I think. Oh, last slide. So important for you is to be motivated, right? I am my own motivator. It's just people say, do I have a battery somewhere here? Because I'm always like very energetic, right? I'm convinced that about half of what separates the successful entrepreneur. One more slide. Oh, okay, good. Okay, good. I'm convinced that about half of what separates the successful entrepreneur from the non-successful one is pure perseverance. I wanted to put this underneath the slide that said have a thick skin, right? But this is what sets you apart from everybody else. Perseverance. When I was 21 years old, I was earning 1,750 Rand at the bank. 1,750. That year, I went to Europe for 59 days on a holiday. Right? Perseverance. I decided, no, I don't want no presents when I turn 21. Rather give me money. So this is February. My birthday is on the 9th of February. Right? Rather give me money. I want to travel to Europe on the 4th of June. Right? And stay for a long holiday. So one of those Kontiki tours. So I saved a little bit. You can't really save a lot of money, right? My mother had a credit card, so she bought me the ticket. I had to pay for everything else. So I'm now waiting for the presents. I didn't have the 21st. I saved money for the catering. I saved money on the music and the DJ. On the 3rd of June, everything was paid for. I'm only waiting for the spending money now. And everybody who promised, I never got 1 cent. Not 1 cent. I'm leaving tomorrow night. My father takes a loan from work for 1,000 rand to give me the 1,000 rand. Now, luckily then I think the dollar to the rand was 2-1 or 3-1. So it's still a little bit, but only 1,000 rand, eh? And I go on this holiday for 59 days, right? So that means everything that you had to buy extra, I didn't buy. So I didn't go to anything that wasn't already covered by the free portion, right? So I'm like in software, the free version. No enhancements, no extra features. So I did that, right? On one of those free days, I walked, it was the 25th of July, 1985. If you Google it, it'll say it's St. Peter's Day, right? So I go into the Vatican, you know, where the Pope is, right? And I go into the Vatican and I'm walking around there and everything's very, very nice. And then I hear this, just like this. And there the Pope walks past to go and check out. He's going to talk at about 1 o'clock. This is about 10 o'clock. So because it's a free day, the rest of the tour is gone wherever the money can afford to pay. I can't, so I stayed behind and walked around Rome. And so I stay there, but I don't realize as I'm walking around, the place is filling up. So now I can't get out because there's too many people behind me. So I'm stuck, and I keep on going forward, stuck now by the railing. And the Pope starts talking in a language, obviously, you know, Latin and Italian you can't hear. And then he comes back and he walks past me, like here, greeting everyone. Greeting everyone. So now, 1985, if you know anything about South African politics, the UDF guys are in the Dutch embassy here, right? So it's it's like the politics is heavy. It's the state of emergency. And here's the Pope, and he's greeting everybody, and I'm a black person, and he ignores me. So he goes to the person next to me. I remember there was a Korean woman there. So what would I do? I grab his hand, eh? Just like this. Just like this. Boom. And slowly pull him towards me. You know, like this. So the point is, even though I went there on a shoestring budget, I have the best story to tell than anyone there. Right? I bloody met the Pope. And by the way, I missed meeting him 6 weeks ago because I got COVID. So I'll tell you that story in a minute as I wrap up. So perseverance, right? You have to be thick-skinned and you have to do this thing properly and persevere. So people think focus means being focused on the one thing that you are currently doing. That's focus, right? Actually, it means saying no to the other 99 things that are attracting your attention and trying to distract you from what you're doing. Right? So it actually means saying no to the 100 other good ideas that are out there. You have to pick your one carefully. Okay? And then here's the last quote, which I'm going to wrap up with the story. My favorite quote, and all those quotes, by the way, were from Steve Jobs. Right? You know Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, right? Also, a good story and a good business lesson. We're here to put a dent in the universe. Otherwise, why the hell are we here? Hey, to put a dent in the universe. So I said I'll wrap up with a story about putting the dent in the universe. So I told you I want to make an impact in my business, but I am a complete person, right? My business doesn't operate separately from who I am as a person. So I'm guided by certain principles, and to make the world a better place, have an impact, be kind, be generous, be compassionate. So I have a big, hairy, audacious goal, and everybody must have it. So even if your business is small, there must be this one big thing that gets your heart pumping a little bit faster and excites you, okay? So imagine if we could get a reboot in the world, right? So in the financial markets in the world, everyone's indebted, right? You're over-indebted in your bond, in your student loan. The country is over-indebted, right? Society is over-indebted. And debt is a threat to the global economy. Banks are failing in the United States, and banks are failing in Europe, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. So what if, just what if, all that debt could be cancelled? Now, just think about it for a minute, right? It's totally mind-blowing that the concept can exist, that we can cancel everyone's debt. What would it mean if none of you had any debt here tomorrow? You can get a reboot, right? Okay, a reboot, a reset. Okay? So last year, myself and 2 other activists that think like me decided to form an organization called Debt for Climate. And we are going to make a dent in the universe. We are going to get the global north, you know the global north, right? All the rich countries, developed nations, to cancel all the debt that the global south owes to the World Bank and to the IMF. And why would they do that? Right? Are we victims of slavery? Africa was a victim of slavery, right? The global south was a victim of slavery, right? Are we victims of colonialism? Yes, right? 500 years of colonialism. Are we victims of extractivism? They've taken our gold, our diamonds, our minerals. And where did it go? It went to the global north. Do you know we can quantify what went to the global north? Right? It's trillions upon trillions upon trillions of dollars. But Jason Hickel, a developmental economist based at the London School of Economics, together with his master's students, decided to put a number to it. So this number, now you can't say slavery happened 300 years ago, colonialism is 500 years old, extractivism is since the Industrial Revolution. It's difficult. So let's just take something that's contemporary and that we can understand. 1990, within your lifetime, to 2015, 25 years. 25 years. Let's figure out how much money, resources, and value flowed from the global south to the global north. Okay? And we want to quantify it through research, analytics, data, all of that. The figure for that 25 years was 242 trillion US dollars. Right? It's more money that we can ever think about, but our brains can't wrap ourselves around that number. So let's just say 2015, what was it? In 2015 alone, 11.8 trillion US dollars. Now, again, too big to understand. Rather, let's communicate in a way that we understand. What can you do with that money? Okay? We know there's an issue called global poverty, right? So global poverty means people who are living, I think the figure is now $1.85 or $2.85, somewhere there, who are living below that poverty line on a daily basis, form what we call global poverty. That 11 trillion, almost 12 trillion, can wipe out global poverty completely. Amazing, right? That's not amazing. 72 times over. 72 times over we can get rid of global poverty with just the money that flowed from the global south to the global north in 2015. Okay, so I want to show you the numbers, right? So you understand. So, slavery, colonialism, and extractivism. Okay? Have we presented a bill to anyone? We have just, as Africans and people in the indigenous world around the world, just accepted this reality that they took it. It's fine. So Sunny Morgan, Sunny the solar guy, and a few of his friends traveled to Germany on the 27th of February this year with our document to the German ministry and says, here's the bill. We are coming to present the bill, can you please pay? And how do you pay? By cancelling the debt that we owe the World Bank and the IMF. If they cancel it, it's not good enough, but it will be the down payment. And that, my friends, is how I aim to make a ding in the universe. If we get it cancelled at that level, then the logical thing is for somebody to put up their hand and say, okay, what about student debt? Let's cancel student debt, which is happening now in the United States. Our activists will be outside the World Bank and the IMF offices in April at the spring meeting, right? Agitating with the cancel the student debt movement to make that connection. So while we're talking about state and sovereign debt, it's very, very easy for someone to say, Oh, if governments can cancel, why can't the banks cancel? And then somebody's going to say, well, actually mortgage debt in South Africa, why don't we start cancelling that? And how we cancel that? By small, you eat the elephant small piece at a time, right? So South Africa's total sovereign debt is just under 5 trillion rand. Just under 5 trillion. Eskom's debt is 400 billion. So we, small piece, we are now agitating with the unions and with the workers and with other organizations in civil society to say, let's cancel Eskom's debt. Instead of Enoch saying, oh no, the state will take it onto the state's balance sheet. It was always on the state's balance sheet because the state was always responsible for it. So what we want to do now is have it cancelled. So if suddenly you hear Eskom's debt was cancelled, then you must know we've made a ding in the universe somewhere. Thanks, guys. Maybe Sunny, we'll do some questions if anyone has it, but I like to hear all of your experiences as well. Yeah. I don't know how that was.
No, that was awesome. That was really, really awesome. Thanks for sharing, yeah? Yeah, really, really interesting story. Very, very inspiring as well as informative. So, yeah, we have a chance to actually now, I mean, I saw you guys taking like copious notes, and, you know, if questions, this is a time to actually now, you know, just get into those questions that you might have. Anyone with a burning question that they would like to ask Sunny? Yeah. It could be on a point that he made. It could be on something that's been bugging you. It could be on how, in terms of how to do something. Yes. Is the next one? Is the next one? Okay. This one you can keep. Okay, sure.
Sunny, good morning, by the way. Lovely presentation. I want to ask you one specific question. Your presentation, I'll start with the latter, on the exercise that you are doing with your fellow colleagues globally. Now, I'm going to take it back home. Think of it. And I think the whole lot of us that are seated here today are probably not in this room. We've been elsewhere for so many times because of the number of challenges for people that we call entrepreneurs or intend to be entrepreneurs. The biggest challenge, and my question is, with that effort, and I mean by no chance I'm not underplaying the global effort that you're making with your colleagues, but right here back home, we really have a massive challenge. There's very, very, very minimal. And I think from a policy, and I'm talking directly to the government that is in charge, the African National Congress, that I think elsewhere you do have some places elsewhere where you sit with them and talk with them. My own experience and the many experiences, and I would suspect for the others that may be in here, there's absolutely minimal commitment to seeing that the so-called entrepreneurs, which they say, by the way, that should rightfully elsewhere in the world are the biggest creators of jobs. But you see zero boggle from these people, either by the people that they put there that say, these are the people that are going to assist you. I've come across so many, absolutely, you get absolutely irritated, absolutely nonsensical, that we almost have a government that is absolutely zero committed. And I'm saying zero committed because if you leave it on paper, it's as good as no commitment. If you put it on paper, but make sure that the person that is there, that you say is given the responsibility to facilitate, then we are talking. Then I would absolutely say, possibly, you are committed. But let's agree, there is absolutely no commitment from this government. People like yourselves, with that noble move and approach, do you think that you could do something to that extent? And many, by the time that something happens, coming from your effort and perhaps assisted by some of you, half of these people will be here, will be on pension, by the way, I suspect. Thank you.
actually a very good question, right? Because it speaks to what is the enabling environment, right? So let me tell you the reality. So I may have glossed over this idea that my grandfather was on Robben Island. We used to say, I was Nelson Mandela's bodyguard and other leaders' bodyguards before it was fashionable to have guns and bodyguards. If you look at the most famous photograph of Chris Hani's funeral, you will see a guard of honor outside his coffin, standing there in a mustard suit with long hair and a mustache. That's me, right? So I used to say that my blood was black, green, and gold, right? I bled for the ANC, right? But the reality is, as business people, right, we must be able to say that we are going to challenge ourselves and the systems and run a business in spite of the ANC or the ruling elite or all of those people. I have no faith and I hold no hope that the ANC or the ruling parties, if you're sensitive about me saying the ANC, that they will give us any benefit whatsoever. So I attended a meeting on Friday, 2-day conference, and they said, what would you say to the ANC or to the ruling elite about the following? I said, I'd say to them, get out of my bloody way. I have a job to do here. So most of us, right, are doing our businesses without any support from any minister, any department. When you talk to me about the Department of Small Business, it's like you have lit a bomb up my ass. Sorry for the language, right? Because there is absolutely nothing coming from them. I don't depend on it. So our business, we do not do no tenders at all. We do not pursue any government work, any school work, anything that's tied to the state or to the government, we say no thank you to. A friend of mine, and I told Mercedes a story years ago, a friend of mine owned a business that made the basic products to make Panado and vitamin C, so the raw material, right? So he gets called to a meeting, and they say, listen, you know, this is now 10 years ago, eh? They say to him, listen, you are going to, the National Health Insurance is coming soon, right? You need to partner with the right people. So we Bhikkhu blacks, right? We black people, right? Some people will say we Indians, but we black people, right? But for reference, as an Indian friend of mine. And they bring him 3 guys. And they say to him, you partner with these 3 guys, right? And then you on that thing. So he spends 2 years finessing them. So they always book at the most expensive hotels. They always eat the most expensive food. The bill is always 12,000 rand, right? And for 2 years he gives up. He says, this is useless. I'm not going to do that. He held out Mercedes. Last year, he sold his business to a Dutch company for 250 million rand. 250 million rand, because he was sharp enough to say to that group, listen guys, you're wasting my time. I want to get on with my business without you. Right? So to answer your question, none of what I said means anything that it depends on the government or on some entity, because real business people, real entrepreneurs, if you use that term, realize we are not tenderpreneurs, right? We can't wait for it to be handed to us. Of course, you may be in circles where your business model is to get tenders, but it's unsustainable, right? You can't build a monster like that, right? I heard a story, I don't know how true it is, but it came from credible people. They were sitting around a table discussing how to build Discovery. Sitting around the table with people we know. And they said, you know, we want to build this. I saw you said you're in the medical industry or healthcare industry. And they got together and they said, and Adrian, you know what he said? He said, we must build a monster. Right? Do you think they had the National Health Insurance on their ideas? Nothing. They didn't think about it. So real entrepreneurs get on with the job in spite of the challenges. Lots of challenges. I'm not sugarcoating this thing. I said, it's hard, it takes long, it's going to drain you, it's probably going to bankrupt you. But you must have a thick skin, you must persevere, because the government is not going to be on your side. Because the track record of 30 years have proven it. Right? So the greatest impediment to progress in this country, unfortunately, is the same ANC that we put into power, unfortunately. We need to get out of that mindset.
The only thing that would make me happy is as confirmation that we should expect anything.
Yeah.
I think I've been in that mindset for quite a long time.
And that's a reality.
And I'll stick to line.
Yeah.
You have confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Because if you think it's going to change, right, you have to, how are you running your business? We say if you're going to run your business, it must be evidence-based. If you say how big the market is, you didn't thumb suck it. You got evidence. You say, how much must I price it for? You didn't thumb suck it. So it's evidence-based. So the same risks that when you do your risk assessment or your SWOT analysis must be evidence-based. And the evidence is that there's no white knight coming for us. There's no black umbrella coming for us. There's nothing. You are on your own. And it's so much harder to do it when you're on your own. But that's the only way at the moment. Of course, they pay lip service to this idea that small businesses, right, are the backbone of the economy. And then you see the JMPD driving through town and taking people's goods on the side of the road. The mama that's making pop and selling stuff, and they take all of those things. They are an insult to small businesses and worker rights. So you're on your own, brah.
Sunny, thank you so much for the inspirational talk and insightful information that you gave us. Now, obviously, solar at the moment, I mean, as you rightfully said, it is currently one of the future biggest business trends, or renewable energy, so to say. What would be your advice to other entrepreneurs who are considering getting into that space, bearing in mind that some of us see opportunities in a lot of different places? I come from rural Eastern Cape, as much as I'm based here in Gauteng, but I always feel that due to trends and sometimes due to availability of resources in the big cities, we are always the first ones to change lives, right? Or the lives always change first in the big cities. However, the need for medical care, for example, is still there in the rural areas. The need for any other basic that you would need electricity for is still there. What would be your advice, for example, to not just a guy like me, but someone down in Mgababa in KZN or Kukatane in the Eastern Cape, where or how they can start getting into the solar business to solve for, challenges in their areas? Thank you.
Excellent question. So I give this talk to a lot of talks to schools, right, on the just transition, on renewable energy, and I normally give out a prize, small little solar panel, as a gift for some of the questions. So to answer your question, you need to figure out, right, first of all, reiterate, renewable energy and the just transition is the largest economic opportunity on the planet, right? And it doesn't mean everything has to be a billion rand solar farm, right? My big, hairy, audacious goal is to build 100 megawatt solar farm on the Orlando power station property. It's in the pipeline, to coin a word, right? It's in the pipeline. We are going to build 100 megawatt solar farm where the Orlando power station is standing, right? It's going to be socially owned, renewable energy. I coined a phrase called CORE, C-O-R-E, community owned renewable energy. Residents that want to invest and own it will buy into it. So that's the big thing, right? You know how much it will cost to build? 1.5 billion rand. So just to answer your question about the opportunity, but how can we make it relevant in Umtata or KwaZulu, right? You understand your market. So in the rural area, right? give you an example, and if anyone takes this idea up, please send me my bill when you've made some money. Do you know an average poor household living off the grid? Oh, off the grid. White people like to say we're living off the grid. I say black people have been living off the grid their whole lifetime. So somebody living in an Mkuku, a RDP, or a back room, which is what we understand, right? Spends or uses 2 packets of candles a month, right? You might know someone like that, still lighting candles. You know how much 2 candles a month cost? 78 rand, okay? So a poor person still needs 78 rand every single month just to light the candle, okay? Remember that. If they want to charge their phone, not a smartphone, they go to the shop, to the spaza, right? And the guy's got this, whatever he's got there with lots of cords, and he charges you 5 rand, right? They could be spending another 100 rand a month charging phones, right? What if I said to you that for around 700 rand, you can build a system for that person? When I say build, talk about 64% unemployment rate in between workers of 18 to 25 years, 24 years. 64% unemployment rate, right? How are they going to find jobs? What if you said to a small group of people, the solar panel, 10-watt solar panel, the page is too big, it's slightly smaller than this page. The battery that fits into the alarm system or your gate motor, 7 amp hour, right? Is about 199 rand to 250 rand. So the panel is 200 rand, the battery is 200 rand, so that's 400 rand, right? The small 12 volt LED light, okay? Small, 90 rand, 70 rand, 50 rand, something like that. And what we call a charge controller, which is about this size here, which charges the battery, right? It tells the solar panel when to charge the battery. It's about 150 rand. That's my 700 rand, right? You build that thing, and every single person here, if I brought it now, I'll teach you for 5 minutes how to install it, and you're an installer of that product. For 700 bucks, that person will never buy a candle for the rest of their lives. And they will never go and pay the 5 rand to charge their phones again. There's your business opportunity. At that level, right? So there's something from the 700 rand to the 200,000 rand or the 1.5 billion rand all around the country. That's the real opportunity. So to answer the question, to ask you, that's the opportunity? I'm solving the candle problem, right? What problem are you solving, right? I'm solving the high cost of candles. If a candle falls over, it burns the person's house and builds in near Hout Bay. I can't remember what that community is called. Yeah, where you hear the fires, 300 houses, wipe out the whole community, 35 people dead. Why? Because the candle fell over. I always do the demonstration. I say, if the solar panel falls, yeah, I just pick it up. No harm in that, right? Afrikaans master's student about 10 years ago wrote a master's paper in the University of Bloemfontein, right? That said, how do we alleviate shack fires? What interventions are necessary for shack fires? So she did interviews and interviewed experts. So one guy said, you know, we've invented this paint, that once you paint the shack, right, that when the fire, it gets contained so it doesn't move to the next thing, right? So shame, everybody who died in this shack, she came to a conclusion. I've been trying to trace this lady for the last couple of years. She made a conclusion. She says everybody that she interviewed had some technological solution. And no one said the obvious. You electrify the shack. If the shack has electricity, there's no need for a candle to fall over. So when we put solar panels, we're talking about electrifying the shack, right? And that's your business opportunity. And what kind of business opportunity is, it's a multiplier. I found a community here in Crosby, which is now called Slovo Park. You know Brixton, that area? Brixton, Mayfair, Coronationville. There's a squatter camp there. I don't use the word squatter camp, but it's informal housing, right? It's people's homes. Yeah. So there was a shipping container. And I went to a meeting, one of these kind of meetings, and someone said, Uncle Sunny, what can you do for the youngsters, man, to give them a break? I said, well, let's start with that question. What choices do you have? What resources do you have? So that guy said, I've got a drone license. I don't have a drone, but I have a drone license. So I said, okay. Went to my car and gave him a drone. Said, here's a drone for you. Okay? So I got some good exposure. Everyone said, oh, so generous. This business gave that guy a drone. I said, no. They called me and said, oh, we have the shipping container where we stay. It's locked. It's never been used, but it's there. What can we do? So I said, let's go take a walk. From the house where we were having the meeting, we took a walk there. Took the bolt cutter, cut the lock. Get inside. It's got these tables along the edge like that. And along that piece there. Right? Long shipping container, 40 foot. Immediately comes to my mind, this is a classroom. So I say to them, why don't we turn this into a classroom? They said, we have this idea of an internet cafe. Youngsters. It's a brilliant idea. Do you have any equipment? No, Uncle Sunny, we don't have no equipment. I say, there's no electricity here. I say, yeah, that's also another problem. So what am I? Sunny? The solar guy. So I donate the solar panels, the inverter, the batteries, all the wiring, drill the holes, put in lights. Under that desks there, we put right through plugs. Convert it within a week into a full-fledged 4IR digital lab. You're welcome to come and visit it anytime. Again, I apologize for the crude language. I say this to people, especially to funders, right? I say, to get to the 4IR digital lab in an informal settlement where they're learning coding, they're using drones, they're getting introduced to 3D printing, and they now got robotics. I donated the stuff, right? You have to walk over a river of shit because the sewage goes down there because there's nothing, right? So this is the business opportunity. Why I'm telling you that story is because what happens in that thing, they now have a place where they can earn some money for the digital lab. The kids go every single day there to do their homework and do their research because they've got a bit of pride that they have their own systems. But close by, there's a woman who's sewing because she has access to the electricity. So she has enabled herself to be an entrepreneur. So you put in electricity somewhere in the community where you're talking about, anywhere, and start small, they'll create the demand for you. There's your business opportunity. So I'm talking to one of the ladies, I'll wrap up with this, the kids. And I say to them, oh, tell me about yourself and whatever. And this one, I'm 13 years old and I want to be this. I'm progressive, but I just say, oh, maybe you want to be a teacher, maybe you want to be a model, or maybe you want to be a housewife. This 13 or 14-year-old, she says, housewife, Uncle Sunny. Housewife. Uncle Sunny, man, housewife. No, me, I want to be a medical doctor. I get so inspired. She calls me 6 weeks later, Masedi. She says, Uncle Sunny, guess where am I? It's career day. I'm job shadowing Dr. Kota. She was this Saturday at the Human Rights Festival at Constitutional Hill, right? Taking 13 of her girlfriends, I'm saying, girls, to educate them and to expose them to human rights and to communication and to presentation. Her name is Tukele. She's going to be Dr. Tukele because she's got opportunity. There's your business opportunity, right? To create an environment so that a young girl from an informal settlement getting light from a candle can say to you, housewife, Uncle Sunny, housewife, I want to be a doctor.
The camera. Oh, okay. Okay, it's on. Thank you for your presentation. I will start with a little critique. Okay. I want to make a little critique of the question and answer session. And this is coming from one activist to another. I think in spaces like this, most of the time women become very dismembered, in the sense that I raised my hand after this gentleman, but the mic still went to another gentleman. No. I'm not. It's a constructive critique, because I want us to create safe spaces for women to be able to speak. Because I could have interrupted, because I'm an activist. But sometimes we don't want to come across as being too masculine in spaces like this, because it's a learning space, and we are here to learn. And I've learned a lot. I'm actually quite motivated after your presentation, because I'm into branding and marketing. And my question was around partnerships, because I heard at the beginning of your presentation that what motivated you into getting into business was that you wanted to get out of the workspace that you were in, because you were working for a large conglomerate company, because if it's JSE listed, then it's a very big corporation. And you felt that if we as a group of people can go out there and start something like this, we could actually become bigger than them. And I think the motivation there was also about money at the beginning, and that's what's motivating me as well to get into business. I've previously been an academic. I was an academic at UNISA. I taught there for a while, and I was also a postgraduate. So I've been a student with them for the past almost 11 years. So I've grown up in the system. And also we part of the people who actually motivated for a program like this to exist within the university. So because we saw that a lot of corruption was taking place, and people didn't get opportunities. It was certain types of businesses that got opportunities. So this is also an opportunity for me to learn, not only as a student, because I'm no longer a student now. I want to get into business, and we don't want to get into being tenderpreneurs. So I have a partner. So I wanted to find out what motivates partnerships, because I hear in your business you work alone. In your business model, it's you alone. And I mean, to have done the work that you're doing, it must have taken a lot of perseverance. So I'm basically the brains in the business. I've never done marketing. I've always been an academic, so that's what I know. But I know how to brand. I know how to market a particular thing. I know how to campaign. I know how to, and also I'm in politics, so I know how to draw a crowd towards a particular thing. My partner is more of the hands-on person who does the quotations, how much it costs to do branding. But I feel that is it's very narrow-minded, because you're dealing with someone who's obviously looking at the selling to 1 to 100, right? And I'm saying we can be at 10,000 within, So how do you balance, partnerships with someone who is thinking big, but hasn't done the groundwork and done the layman work, where you're selling to one person, or you're selling to one company, or you have one client, or you have 2 clients, but they're already thinking, yeah, we could have 10 clients in 2 years, and the person, your partner, is saying, but you need to, it takes time, you need to build, there's a lot of work that goes into, building a business at a ground level. So how did you manage? Because I'm sure you started off with partnerships as well, and then you decided that, I can do a lot more on my own. So how do you balance partnerships in small businesses, and how do you manage expectation as well? Because I think expectations are different between partners, and how do you go about managing those expectations?
Can I keep it? I'm going to talk from there. That's like a great question, right? With a terrible answer. And in this sense here, so I talk about partnerships, and I want to differentiate between shareholders. So the shareholder, the person, oh, this is my partner because they own half of the business or a quarter of the business. Or I'm in partnership with these people as service providers that I can work with. So initially for me, I had experience and exposure to both of those. So we opened our business in 2011. Like I told you, very, very hard, 2 or 3 years. By 2014, when I got my first order for solar, my brother got retrenched that year. So in 2015 of February, I suddenly checked my account and I have 150,000 Rand deposit. And I don't know where this comes from. So I have another brother who helps me manage the business. So I said, Nish, what happened here? We've got 150,000 Rand that I don't know about, because 150,000 in 2015 was like somebody paid you R1 million. And he said, no, but Ginger, my other brother's name is Ginger, but Ginger phoned and asked for the bank account. So I gave him the bank account. I thought he had spoken to you, so he deposited the money. So I called him. I said, Jeans, what's happening? You gave me 150,000. He said, no, I like your business. I want to be a partner. Here's the money. So I said, hey, now, no talking, no advertising, no agreement, nothing. The money first. So now, when you get the money first, you automatically accept the partnership, right? Okay, let's draw up some agreement, but thank you very much. I'm so chuffed. Somebody invested. First of all, that somebody thinks that I'm good enough with this idea to invest some money, right? And he does that. And he does not do one other thing in that business from the day he gave me the money until last year, December. Doesn't come to a meeting, doesn't sell one solar panel, doesn't tell his friends that we are a solar business. I call him, man, and I say to him, bro, have you forgotten about the money? He said, no, I know, I still have it. He never raises it. By the way, the best partner is the one that gives you money and never raises it ever again. So in that sense, he was a good partner. But he was a bad partner, because if I got to 20 million or 20 million and he owned 10% of the business for 150,000, but didn't add any value. So I say to him, do you mind if I give you this money back? Because in December now, actually 2021 already, would you mind if I just paid you back? He said, hey bro, that would be like a dream come true for me. I'm like, plat, eh? But he was too embarrassed to ask me for it, right? Good partner. I gave him his money back. I used the average prime rate for the period that I have the money and gave him the interest as well, right? But I gave him his money back because, to answer your question, you have to find out who are those partners. You must be aligned, right? To what value do they bring, and what are your expectations of the relationship? Because pumping money in is not enough, right? So maybe in some cases it's enough, but in my case it wasn't. I needed somebody to carry some of the load, to help me market, to sell, to at least be a driver sometimes, to go and drop the guys, which he was not prepared to do. The other thing is, I said I had both, so that's the financial partner. When you're choosing the financial partner, make sure you're getting value for money, make sure that your objectives are aligned, and make sure that their expectations are things that you can deliver on, right? We've had some people that said, we'll give you X amount of money, but in 2 years' time, we want to be able to get our money back, and we need at least a 25% premium. And I can never live with the pressure and the stress of doing that, because to go far, you must go slow. One of my points. So that's the issue. So I in that sense, I couldn't find a partner. I got to the stage where I thought to myself, the one thing that I've done, I know my number. Remember I said I know my number, how much I need every month. So I take that money out of the business. So the business pays the bond as a rental because I run from home, and I take about 40% of the whole house. My wife says, we living in a factory. We have bedrooms every year in a big factory, and that's the reality of it. So the business can pay for that. And then I have very little other needs, so I take about 22,000 Rand out of the business, right? So that's like my salary, right? I had an investor interested in buying the business, in partnering with me in the business. I then did my matchbox calculation, said I'm running this business for this amount of money. My salary should have been the real salary. This is how much it is. I have not taken that out for 10 years. That should be what you must buy in for, right? To compensate me for 10 years of building today, something that you want to buy. So we could never get to agree. Again, because our matrix was inconsistent. He had his ratios, return on investment, this kind of issue, what was the IRR, what was the NAV. He had those calculations. And those calculations were not good enough for me. My calculations was it took me 10 years to build a brand that is dependable, to build a business that has a good reputation. We do 95% to 97% of all our business come from word of mouth. Right? We are so credible and so well known that people will say, I spoke to Alex, you put his system in, he's very happy, please come and put my system in. I said, I'm not the cheapest anymore. Right? So people say, I can buy that stuff cheaper. They phone me and say, I bought all the stuff, would you like to install it? I said, I don't install what I haven't supplied, because I make 25% on what I supply. Right? And it's just straight. You can only get that kind of confidence when you've chosen carefully. So I couldn't find the right partner. But that doesn't mean I don't have partnerships. Partnerships are people that provide me with services that align with my values and align with my objectives that I can rely on. Whether they're marketing people, whether they're people who have a design capability, whether it's people who act as mentors to me. I'm in partnership with them. I say everybody, even with my customers are my biggest ambassadors. So I'm in partnership with them. So I treat them very well. Like when I treat them very well, we offer better service than our competitors, right? Steve Jobs would say everybody can build a business, but very few people can execute. So the executing part is your superpower. In our business, how we execute and that value proposition we have with the customer, that is our superpower. Because we're in partnership with them, one customer gives me at least three additional customers over its lifespan. So that's 750,000 rand, 600,000 rand I can get from a customer. So it doesn't mean, so differentiate between financial partners who are shareholders and invest in your business, but the other people who are soft partnerships are the relationships I have with everybody in the value chain that I consider valuable investors in my business. And I treat them well, you know? So that's important. I hope it covers some of what you would think.
Oh, thank you so much for that. I don't know if anybody has got any additional questions or points for clarification, or maybe they want to share something that personally, maybe a story, or, you know, the floor is yours. Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. No, I think at this point we really have you know, come to the end of our, you know, speakers engagement. But Sunny, you're sticking around, or you're sticking around. So Sunny will be around as we go in and we break for lunch. You know, like I said, you know, after lunch we'll have just a time to just interact and network, and, you know, just be able to exchange numbers, and, you know, just you know, get some kind of a bond going, you know. Yeah, but yeah, please, we had initially scheduled for 1 o'clock, but it looks like we're going to break at the same time as the next group. So they've asked us to maybe just wait for them to go in and finish, and we're probably going to go in at about 15:15. So I'm just going to ask us to be just a little bit patient until 15:15, and then we can go in. Lunch is going to be served to the left. There's a restaurant here. There's the table, I think a couple of tables reserved for us. And then, yeah, at 15:15, we can just go in and actually help ourselves. But yeah, we do have the time to have, you know, just further conversations if you choose. please feel free to sit and do further work if you need to. But yeah, I think in terms of the morning's arrangements, we've really come to the end of the presentation. So I don't know if there's any last comments. That now would be a good time to take those. Oh, you've got. Okay.
Yes. I don't know if it's still in the morning or it's almost in the afternoon. My question is not a difficult one. I just wanted to know. Oh, by the way, I'm Tebogo Mylan. I wanted to ask regarding since you're on this journey, on your side, do you have a skill transformation where you develop a young entrepreneur? Not per se like us here, maybe the one which you normally develop regarding the experience you are having. Because now, if you have got this path, automatically already you can do a skill development with your experience.
So we don't have a formal skills development program, but we have 8 workers. My most important worker is a gentleman called Peter Matashi. I found Peter one day giving out pamphlets for an estate agent in the area, Pam Golding. So I would see him once or twice every time they did new pamphlets. So obviously one day I called him and I said, "Hey, Peter, will you do me a favor, man, and give these pamphlets out? Because I also make pamphlets, right? Would you, on your way in the same area, because I want to target this area where I stay, will you just give out some pamphlets?" So he gave out the pamphlets for me once or twice. And then the next morning, one day in 2014, we got our first solar installation. And I didn't have any staff. Because we were outsourcing it to someone else. But I said, what we should do is at least go with 1 or 2 of our people so that we can learn. So I phoned up my electrician who does my house electrician work. Fit the plug, fit the light, connect the gate motor, that kind of stuff. His name is H. Budleni. He's from the Eastern Cape. I said, "H, what are you doing?" He says, "Nothing." I said, "Please come here. We're going to go to Edenvale." So now I've got Peter and I've got H. And we go to our first installation. And we learn from the guy that we see there. And the same customer tells me, "By the way, I want you to do my second house next week." And I say to them, "Listen, to my 2 guys, please come next week. We're going to ask that guy to come and do it again." They said, "No, we don't need him." I said, "What do you mean?" H said, "No, we don't need him. We'll do it on our own. It might take us a bit longer, but we'll do it on our own." And Peter and H still work for me today. They are qualified solar installers. H has now got his own business that is outsourced, and by default, I phone him whenever I need him. And about 2 weeks ago, I phoned him and I said, "H, I'm really desperate. Can you come?" So you know what he said to me? He said, "I'm so happy I'm no longer desperate." I was angry for a minute. But that I realized, to answer your question, is in our business, we've transferred enormous skills to our workers, right? They are solar installers today, and they were pamphlet giver-outers before. So we do that all the time. And our model is to have a team of 4. Equip them at the moment as a team, and then once they're good enough, we have a new team that we start building again, and we're now about to enter our 3rd team of 4, so we'll have 12. But as part of the strategy for growth, My team leader is a guy called Kahisa Barwana from Shoshenguve. He also has his own business, but his business was very, very slow. So I gave him all my work. So technically, he's my outsourced installer. And we had a meeting around my birthday, around Valentine's Day, and I said to him, listen, we geared for growth now. So you have two options. Either formalize the outsource agreement, or you fold Barwana into Analogy, and you take over as the manager slash partner slash shareholder of a portion, and you be, because I am no longer valuable as the driver, as the guy to pick up the stock. I'm more strategic and I can grow this thing. But I can't do that because I'm hampered by capacity. Will you be interested in that? So we are having a conversation at the moment with Kagiso, KG, to take over the technical aspects of this business completely. Either, both choices for him, we'll have to see what his vision is like. So either I do the outsource agreement with him and get the same benefit, or he takes over it internally, becomes a shareholder of a few percentage points, and we get the same outcome. But for him, a completely different outlook. I can't force the partnership on him. To answer your question and come back, I need to find out if his objectives are now aligned. We have a relationship for about 7 or 8 years. So from a trust point of view, it's there. From a technical expertise point of view, it's there. But as a visionary, as a partner that can see the runway in front of us, I'm still waiting for him to assess that. But in both ways, we transfer skills all the time. My big passion is to make a dent in that youth unemployment number, right? And to be quite honest, installing solar is not rocket science. We, on June the 16th last year, I decided to put my money where my mouth is. Be careful about doing that. And say that I launched an initiative called Solar 1000. Now, this is my matchbox calculation, right? I said, there's 52 Saturdays in a month. If I can train 20 people every Saturday for 52 months, I'll train 1,000 and some odd people to be solar installers. So we launched on the 16th on Youth Day last year, our initiative Solar 1000, to train 1,000 solar installers. We have trained a few people, but the project has come to a standstill because of government and red tape and vested interests, right? Because there's an organization called the ECA, the Electrical Contractors Association, right? They have a hold on who can install solar, right? So if, in my mind, there's the people who unpack the truck, get the solar panels, pack out the solar panels, take the solar panels to the roof and install it on the roof with all that expertise, train at high-tech training, working at height training, all of those things, and then they stop what they're doing. They just got the panels there. Then the electrician takes over, right, and connects that system to the DB board. So that part we are in agreement with. But the ECA says even those guys that carry the solar panels need to be electricians. So we can't train them to be what we call artisans, or we can't train them to be solar installers. So we have that conversation that's ongoing. But in the meantime, I've partnered with an organization called Qualitas Training, who have all of the SAQA accredited training modules, and we're going to start training them anyway. So because while there isn't a lot of recognized solar installer training because of this conundrum and this conversation and tension that's happening with the ECA and the Labor Department, of course, we can still train them how to do measurements. That's a SAQA module. How to use power tools, how to work at height, what are safety considerations. So if we train them all of those pieces, then they make up the modules necessary to get accredited. So once we resolve this tension between this challenges that we have with the ECA and the Labour Department, then we'll roll out Solar 1000 again. But it doesn't mean training can't happen and skills transfer. But here's a challenge to the powers that be, right? The rapid rollout of renewable energy, specifically solar in South Africa, right, is going to come to a grinding halt for lack of expertise if we don't train people now. In the United States, there's a category, energy, right? Electricity is one part of energy, oil and gas, fossil fuels, all of that. So the whole energy component, right? More jobs get created in wind and solar than in oil and gas. So it can exactly be the same in South Africa. Of course, we know that the transition to renewable energy, and specifically solar, is being hampered by certain people because the money to be made in transporting coal, selling coal, extracting coal, it's huge. And I'm going to use the C word, it's corrupt, right? And everybody has a bite of the apple along the way. But what's the challenge with renewable energy is how do you monetize the wind and the sun? Yep. That's the fuel source, right? Okay? So you can't get your brown envelope because the sun shined today or because the wind blew, right? And they haven't worked it out. So the challenge is as soon as we break through that issue, right, we're going to see an explosion of wind and solar. To go back to the question about the opportunities, you can throw a solar panel down anywhere in the world, it will make electricity, right? In South Africa, we are the third best position in the world. We call it the resource, right? So the solar resource is the third best in the world, right? And I sometimes confuse it, and let me say it correctly, and I use it a lot. The worst place in South Africa for solar, right, is better than the best place in Germany. So the absolute worst place for solar here is places with high humidity, right? Because the water vapor in the air bends the solar light, bends the light, right? Acts as a mirror. So it's like KwaZulu-Natal, right? It's Durban is in terms of, if we say where's the best place in South Africa to the worst place, on that list, top would be Northern Cape, Kimberley, Pofadder, all of those places, the Springbok, Uppington, best. But everybody's already there, right? All the IPPs are already there, so there's no more capacity. But we're talking about us, residential. It can be anywhere. So that's why there's hardly any solar farms of the IPPs in KwaZulu-Natal, because you want to put it in the best place so you can pay the loan in the shortest possible time. But anywhere in the country, right, you can do solar. So we should be rapidly rolling out solar, right? That's the business opportunity for job creation, for skills transfer, for innovation, and for solving load shedding. But we need to deal with the big C. So.
Apart from that big C side, maybe assisting, and it's been my biggest suspicion for the longest of time.
Yeah.
In relation to the solar aspect.
Yeah.
And by the way, I've had an appetite, and I don't want to get into that. Isn't it true and confirmed to me that part of the reason why we're not moving with speed, we're not advancing it in the manner that we should have been, despite the advantage of the sun and all of that, that is more political than anything, and rightfully or wrongfully. With the very same guys that I was talking about, I'm not their greatest fan for a number of reasons, but potentially, and maybe one could for 2 seconds agree with them, in the sense that should we have moved with the speed that we needed to move with in implementing solar, we can almost be certain that many of the companies that would have been ready to implement these projects with the energy with the megawatts that we are behind with would have been white companies. And maybe on hindsight, you could have agreed with them to say, should we have moved ahead with that speed, there will be very fewer black companies. And you would unintentionally be so much empowering white companies. And given that now that renewable is your new gold, wouldn't we have done that mistake?
So obviously initially, right, it wasn't the issue of black and white. It was an issue of foreign and local, right? So in REAP number 1 and 2, most of the partners were foreign partners because that's where the capital was and that's where the expertise lays. But Cyril had a project in round 1 and round 2. So they were black partners already, right? But it was connected, elite, secretive. Right, so the issue is, the history is, we could have already started in 2013 and been a market leader. So there were some businesses that saw the opportunity then, also BEE transactions, that saw the opportunity and the growth, and they established themselves. They established heavily industrialized places to make the towers for the wind turbines. They went bankrupt for lack of support. Big names, both in the BEE and South African industrial businesses got involved early to come and install, to make sure that they assembled solar panels in South Africa. I had a hand in bringing, the people were already here, they already knew the market, but taking them around and showing them the ins and outs in 2013. When I say in 2013, solar was black magic. You know, then we were taking them around. So they decided to open up a factory in Cape Town, in Montague. They closed the factory down because of no support. So today, so if we had done it then, we could have been a country that was producing solar panels. I speak to a lot of people today, specifically in the union movement and developmental people. They said, yeah, and we must always stress that we must produce the solar panels in South Africa. So I say it's a pipe dream. It's a pipe dream. Because already China has cornered that market in terms of efficiencies. I read this morning before I came here that 1 in 5 solar panels produced in the last 5 years was installed in China. Right? In Vietnam, in 18 months, they installed 2 gigawatts of solar panels. And in South Africa, we not at half a gigawatt yet. In 10 years. My main inverter, I use one of the inverters I use is from Spain. So I called them last week and said to them, by the way, we need A, B, and C, some spares for this new project. The client would like to have some spares. They said, I'm sorry, Sunny, we're closing down. Going. I said, what do you mean? They said, at the end of April, we are shutting down our South African operation because it did not meet any of the objectives in terms of growth. So I said, yes, but you know, in the IPPs, why didn't you target that? Because they said, Sunny, we cannot deal with the demands for bribery and corruption. Not only are they shutting it down, they're not selling anything even if you bought it from them in Spain to service the South African market. Because it means they'll have to have a service presence because your inverters are guaranteed for 5 years. So that's the challenge. So today, the challenge is, are there black businesses in the value chain, right? So you may have heard of this guy, I'm not sure, Patrice. So he owns a company called African Rainbow Minerals, but he also African Rainbow Energy, right? So your business is so big, you know your business is gonna get so big when you can hire as the CEO for your energy division, the ex-CEO of Eskom, right? So when he hired him already, we knew, okay, this guy is gonna be serious. So I'm gonna say that this is credible, unverified information, right? Give you an idea. So in round 1, round 2, and round 3, all of the recipients of the contracts. So in other words, the Department of Energy together with ESCOM puts out a call for interest and say this is going to be around, we call it a window, right? We're going to have a window and we're going to say we're accepting proposals for wind and solar. So in round one, lots of foreign companies, a few South African companies, or no South African companies, foreign companies with South African partners. And then when the process is finished, you can go onto the DOE's website and see who won, all of them. Very expensive. I tried to do one in round two. It became too unmanageable. I didn't do it. But you know who won. You know who won in round three. You don't know who won in round four. By some coincidence, it's the time when that company by that guy starts to enter the market. Right? So we don't know now. It becomes opaque. Round 5. 27 projects get approved. Unverified, credible information says that 24 of those projects went to that company. Right? So there are black businesses in renewable energy in a big way. It's just maybe not the way you and I think. So let me tell you the concept that we have of community-owned renewable energy. On the 14th and 15th, I'll be going to Bloemfontein to talk to a community there who want to do it. So in other words, we want to go and take a solar installation to a community where we find the money through developmental means, and the community owns that renewable energy installation. Last week, Friday, I gave this talk. Guess to who? They called me and said, Sunny, we read your paper that you wrote. I've been presenting this paper a few times. I did it at a couple of universities. Can you please come and give that paper here to us? I said, well, this is quite a strange request. It's the most prestigious girls' school in South Africa, one of them, Rodin, right? It's a private school. When you look at the list of what do you call the honor rolls? I notice a Ramaphosa there, one of the names, but also very familiar names on the list of, who was the head girl last year or the year before, the year before. So a very elite school. But they want to hear about community-owned renewable energy. So I found it interesting. Normally unions ask me to talk about it and communities. So what we have to do is to break that model of whether it's white-owned or black-owned, whether it's owned by the global elites or the South African elites, the 1%ers, or whether it's owned by all of us. So this idea of democratizing the ownership, decentralizing it. Do you know the people who funded the first grid 120 years ago? JP Morgan, still funded today. So JP Morgan, when the grid was invented with Tesla and Westinghouse, they went to a bank to fund it. And it was JP Morgan. And today, if you want to build a grid, you still go to JP Morgan. Right? We have to democratize it. We have to say, no, we want to go to the Komalos. We want to go to the Shabalalas. We want to go to the Mkizis. Right? Or maybe not in Mkizi. So bottom line is the opportunity is in decentralized energy and ownership models that we have to upend. And we intend, I've been writing about this for a long time, to upend it. But now, if you look at yesterday's Beeld newspaper, Beeld, Afrikaans newspaper, dat sê daar is 'n organisasie wat die ding wil verander. And in the little talk, it was a talk that I was part of last week with the Climate Justice Charter Movement, where they're talking about it. Vavi and some of the unions are talking about socially owned, particularly UNISA under Sabay. They're talking about it. So there's a lot more activity happening and saying that the energy model in South Africa must be decentralized and must be owned by you and I. That's another one of the answers, where's the business opportunity? So microgrids, I have a paper that I'm reading at the moment as an international study of ownership models. People always say, where will the money come from in a community, right? I'm going to tell you a secret, but it might not be a secret because I may be black, but I'm not African, right? How much money do you think resides in the Stokvel movement in South Africa? In 2012, it was 70 billion rand. 70 billion. I would estimate that it's close to 100 billion rand. Right? 100 billion. In the Stokvel movement. So there's the money. So we go and talk to the people in Soweto that do all the Airbnbs. Now, before it was Airbnbs, it was just accommodation around the Orlando Stadium. We met with them, 22 of them, and said, listen, what if we built a facility, because you suffer of your business when the lights go off, right? Because everybody can put 200,000 in, but if we build a central one, would you be interested? They said, we have the money. The workers' pension funds, not the government, not that fancy one. We're talking about ordinary workers. The investment money in ordinary workers' funds, workers' pensions, is enough to fund renewable energy. If you are credible, knowledgeable, courageous enough, you can ask for it and partner with them. So there's another opportunity. So you see, it's the gift that keeps on giving. I believe mainstream is a so let's say the whole micro. Yes, yes, yes. So the microgrid is basically the power station that you build. When you're having lunch, I'll show you one that I did in Boise for one customer. So our house uses 20 kilowatts a day, right? This business uses 3,000 a day, right? So you know how it is. The 3 megawatts consumption a day. They are so hurtful with Eskom and incorrect bills, and when their business is the old grid, it's not going to be modernized, so they're going to have more problems. So I built 150 kilowatts of solar panels for them in 2018. In 2019, I put another 150. In 2020, I put another 150. And in 2021, they wanted another 150. And said, no, we can't put more for you. You don't need more solar panels. You need a battery. So in that negotiation, last year, September, they gave me the order for a 1 megawatt battery. 1 megawatt hour battery. So just to put it in context, right? That's a big battery. So now when we put that battery in, we realize now we need to put another 600 kilowatts of solar panels. So in that process, we're having some teething problems at the moment, so we've been testing from December until now. So every now and then something happens. So it's not yet handed over to the customer. So that's a microgrid. So I warned them against it, advised them against it. They said if this thing runs without problems for 2 weeks, we want to cut the cable from Eskom. Because the battery is big enough, the solar is big enough, and the generator is big enough. They do not want to have anything to do with Eskom. In 2013, 2014, I was at a meeting, and in the back there were 4 Eskom executives. And I was in a Greenpeace meeting as an activist, and I said, what keeps you awake at night? I said to the guys. And what keeps you awake at night? And they were embarrassed to answer. So I said, I see you embarrassed, I'll tell you. What should keep you awake at night are 2 things. Grid defection and stranded assets. Okay? So what's a stranded asset? You build something, spend 100 million and building in it. By the time it's finished, you don't need it. Right? You never recover your money, and the thing is useless. That's what's going to happen to Kusile and Mundupi. Right? They're never going to make it exactly finished. They'll never recover the money. It will never, and certainly their other assets will become stranded. But grid defection is a bigger issue. Grid defection is what my client did. He said, I don't care about the grid anymore. You have buggered it up. I can't trust you. I'm defecting, and I'm getting my own one. So the minute you spend 200,000 rand with me, technically you also grid defected, right? Okay? It's not a good thing, because the grid serves a purpose, and a good purpose, right? So you can spend 300 or 400,000 in your own house and be totally off the grid and cut the Eskom wire and give them back their meter. You're fine. But you're not fine, because the minute you jump in your car, go down the road and hit the first traffic light, if it's working, you're back on the grid, right? Who pays for that? So the grid is the public good. So we must look at the grid in a way that says, whilst I have all these opportunities and I want to make money out of it, we must recognize that we must try to keep the grid going, because everybody can't defect from the grid. the military, the hospitals, the clinics, the schools. We need that to function. So if we can take the tension and the hardship away from the grid by going off the grid, right? Then the grid can concentrate on the people who can't afford, right? And we still maintain our connection to the grid. We only become off the grid when we give them their meter back. We don't want to encourage that because we want people to stay on the grid because you have to pay that small amount that you have to pay every month because the grid needs to survive. And the other issue is 60% to 80% of the revenue of every municipality comes from selling electricity. So if you deprive them of the revenue from selling electricity, then what happens? It collapses the municipality. If you think service delivery is bad now, wait for 5 years if this thing continues. So you must try to find a happy medium because we must be responsible corporate citizens, responsible active citizens ourselves. We can't just say, oh, it's all about me. I just want to go off the grid all the time. So my customers, they think I'm mad when I say, no, you have to be on the grid. You must stay on the grid. You must help the grid to survive. No, but they say, no, you have a responsibility. Because if you think, how high can you build a wall? How much electric fence and security or guns can you buy when there's rioting in the streets because the municipality is bankrupt? We know what the effects of it are now. So when you're thinking about your business opportunities, also think about your role in society. Sure.
Wow, so much passion, yeah? Yeah, I think they got the wrong Minister of Electricity there, yeah? No, thank you so much, Sunny, for, again, your passion and the energy that you brought today, so we really, really, honored that you you honored the call and came and actually shared your knowledge with us, so this is a group that is really interested in making something in their own spaces and having, influential people and somebody like you from industry come and actually present a very relatable human story, actually is quite inspiring, and I think we are walking away with each individual nuggets of knowledge that we and notes that I think we're going to implement going forward and actually hopefully the next time we meet like this, we will have, some progression that we will have actually made in our individual spaces. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, guys, a round of applause again for Sunny. Yeah. Okay, so if we really come to the end of our first mentorship session, I don't know if you have any comments, notes, that you want to make with regards to your experience here today. Just quickly, you can just round it off. Any specific points? I think we've got plenty of time to chat about it over the lunch table. Yeah, but yeah. I think the next one we will definitely be focusing more on financial management. It will definitely be in the angle of financial management. You please look out for an invitation to the next one, and also the guys who are on the live stream. Thank you for actually taking out the time to actually, at the comfort of your own homes, offices, to actually be able to actually also attend. Hopefully we get to see your faces in the next one, but yeah, it is a hybrid session. We're going to keep on maintaining the hybrid sessions, and please encourage other people to actually, if they accept the invite, if they actually book, please come, because we really want to get as many people in front of speakers like this, because it's good to have the access to the content virtually, but the physical contact, there's something special there. It's always good to take advantage of that. So yeah, I think it's in closing. I just want to say thank you very much, Sunny, and hopefully next time when we have a need, you'll honor us again in terms of just progressing the conversation further. And yeah, And thank you all for taking out the time for your busy schedules to actually, partake in this. And also a further thank you to UNISA as well to actually having the program and giving us the opportunity to actually have these type of conversations that are all in, our mutual benefit. So without wasting too much of your time further, please, we can break now and have lunch, but you're welcome to come back here and make use of the facilities if you need to work further. So until the next one, please have a pleasant day and have a very successful journey until we speak again. Thank you.